If MTV was the earthquake that hit music in '81, there were plenty of aftershocks too. The first signs of the trends that would define a decade. With her triple platinum album, Precious Time, Pat Benatar kicked off an auspicious new era for women. Outselling men for weeks at a time and holding her own in arenas and on the airwaves.
Significant change was beginning to happen in the music industry. I was part of a group of females that were a product of the women's movement. We were the first generation of daughters who actually were going to get to put it to use.
Stevie Nicks soon joined the female assault on rock and roll. After half a decade as the front woman of Fleetwood Mac, she took center stage in a dynamic duet with Tom Petty and flexed feminine muscle with the release of her first solo album, a smash called Belladonna.
This doesn't have to be the big get even.
Living in the rock and roll man's world is very difficult. And I've talked to a lot of women, and they get strength from the fact that I've managed to live in a man's world very successfully and do exactly what I want.
There was a group of us that were wanting to be the front person of our own bands and singing songs that we had written ourselves and not having the content of being the victims.
Can you hear them? They talk about us, telling lies. Well, that was the price.
In late '81, the all-girl Go-Go's arrived on the scene, supplying a perfect mixture of enticing looks and catchy lyrics to the new MTV generation.
Videos now were becoming important. The video became a big aspect of what your career was, and the Go-Go's were good at it.
They were, jumping around in this fountain. That was not in the script. It was the Go-Go's being the Go-Go's. And they were just fun, and you wanted to watch them, and you wanted to be with them. Frankly, you wanted to be them as they did their thing.
With their videos and exuberant stage shows, the Go-Go's inspired a legion of look-alike fans who imitated their sass and their style.
Here you had all those millions of teenage girls who didn't really have anyone to look up to, and all of a sudden here's these 5 girls that are basically just like them. These teenagers just related to us.
I remember seeing them and thinking, this is so cool. There was something about it that was very appealing to me, the idea of working with other women.
There's no question that we had a big influence on women to pick up instruments and play.
In the wake of the Go-Go's success, the Bangles started jamming in LA. An ambitious girl named Madonna prepared a demo tape. And a colorful singer named Cyndi Lauper toiled over her debut.
By the record machine.
Then came Joan Jett.
Knew he must have been about 17.
With I Love Rock and Roll, she served notice that women would be heard from in the decade to come.
I just think that the women in America all of a sudden really woke up.
If the girls were getting bigger, the boys were getting badder. The year saw Ozzy Osbourne spew out one of the most infamous moments in rock history. In May of '81, a drunken Osbourne stumbled into a meeting with Epic Records execs who just agreed to release his debut solo album, Blizzard of Oz. Carrying a belly full of cognac and 2 live doves, Osbourne was intent on making a biting impression.
He took one dove out of his pocket and, just flying around the room. And then he took the other one and bit its head off. And this young lady, who was one of our publicity people, was sitting right next to him. She just looked at him and passed out,
Fans may have been sucked in by Ozzy's outrageous antics, but they stuck around for his sound. With his rambunctious rock riffs, Ozzy heralded a heavy metal heyday that would last for years.
It was a new sound, so to speak, and I think he became the godfather of metal.
Ozzy's exuberant mixture of sound and sin found ready disciples in the men of Motley Crue.
Ozzy was a mentor for Motley Crue because Ozzy is so confident. Ozzy is not intimidated.
In November '81, the LA Rockers released their debut album, Too Fast for Love, and quickly became known as bad boy trailblazers who took rock and roll decadence to new heights.
You'd be with, 3 or 4 girls in a day. And that's why I got in the business in the first place, is for free booze and chicks.
I'm young, run free, a little bit better than it used to be, 'cause I'm alive.
It was like, we want to all the girls. We want to snort all the drugs, and if mainlining is bad, then that's all we want to do. And if loud is good, then we want to be louder.
Come on, baby, gotta play with me.
We knew nothing other than full on.
Motley Crue matched their backstage bawdiness with ever more spectacular performances. The sonic seed that sprouted a bushel full of hair bands that would dominate the '80s rock scene.
It was like, if somebody's going to pay to see you, let's give them some to watch. So that's why we went like over the top with our look, with our dress, with our show, and we're always trying to top ourselves from the last time.
What a rock star meant was changing. I think a rock star in the 70s was sort of a poet troubadour, and then I think somewhere in the early 80s a rock star became, a Jackie Collins novel version of a rock star.
Motley Crue had sparked a spandex future, but no one rocked harder in '81 than another group of metal men leaping out of LA. Driven by Eddie Van Halen's masterful guitar and David Lee Roth's raucous vocals, Van Halen released Fair Warning and staked their claim as the kings of rowdy rock.
Not interested in broadening anybody's musical horizons. We're not interested in expanding, the perfect genre of music or anything like that. We just want to rock.
There was a big explosion in the music scene in Los Angeles with bands like Van Halen and Motley Crue, and I think that it's kind of like Liverpool in '64 or Seattle in '91. There's certain communities that kind of a new sound starts, and I think in 1981 Los Angeles was one of those places.
Next, the death of an icon.
Reggae really never flowered the way it could have after Marley died. He was irreplaceable.
When Behind the Music continues.